NATO member Turkey has just recently sent a letter to the United States requesting the purchase of 40 brand new F-16 Block 7 and Viper fighter jets. In addition, it wants to upgrade a total of 80 existing F-16 Block 50s to the new Block 7 and Viper standard. This happened after the US has already kicked Turkey out of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter program following Turkey's purchase of the Russian S-400 missile defense system, which, in itself, was a Turkish response to the US for undermining Turkey's national security in Syria by supporting the YPG, which is a terrorist PKK offshoot, and backing a small faction of Pushis in a failed 2016 coup that aimed to remove President Erdogan from power and install a pro-US government. All of this had resulted in a record low point in bilateral relations with the US and pushed Turkey a lot closer to the Russian and Chinese spheres of influence. In fact, so much so that Turkey has become a key partner in China's Belt and Road Initiative and began negotiating with Russia for the purchase of a second batch of S-400 missile defense systems. It has even shown an interest for purchasing Russia's advanced Su-35 and stealth Su-57 fighter jets. We need to remember that while Turkey happens to be a very active member of NATO that participates in alliance exercises which, by design, aim to limit Russia's power and influence in Europe and the Middle East, on the other hand, Turkey and Russia cooperate very closely in places like Syria and Karabakh, where they conduct joint patrols and operate joint mission centers. Russian tourists enjoy visa-free travel in Turkey, where they can be found in abundance, and Turkish businesses enjoy preferential access and lower jurisdictions in Russia. It's also important to note that Russia is building a large nuclear power plant in southern Turkey, with 4 reactors rated at 1200 megawatts each. If everything goes according to schedule, Akkuyu will start operating in 2023 and will generate up to 10% of Turkey's electricity needs as the country's first commercial nuclear power plant. Turkey also happens to be one of Russia's top natural gas customers. All in all, currently Turkish relations with Russia are excellent, while Turkish relations with the US haven't been so low pretty much ever since the two NATO allies have exchanged ambassadors. So the question is, why is Turkey suddenly pivoting back toward the US with this new F-16 order? Especially against our formation background in bilateral relations, and especially when Russia and China are offering much cheaper and arguably more advanced defense solutions. By the way, this is also a good time to mention that Turkey is also developing a couple of its own indigenous fighter jets, dubbed Hürjet, a 4th-generation light fighter intended mostly as an advanced jet trainer, and TFX, a 5th-gen, dual-engine fighter jet Turkey is hoping to replace all its F-16s with in the 2030s. Needless to say, Turkey has to also allocate large sums of money for these expensive projects, all of which makes this renewed interest in the older type US-made F-16s even more confusing. So then, why did Turkey send a request to the US for more F-16s? Well, the whole answer is quite complex and intricate, but most defense analysts in Turkey seem to agree on a few key points. Firstly, as the third largest user of F-16s after the US and Israel, Turkey has a lot of experience with both flying them and also building and maintaining them. This is to say that it has an existing industrial and logistics infrastructure that makes operating the F-16 relatively cheaper for Turkey. Not to mention the valuable experience gained by Turkish pilots from many years of training and operating the F-16. This fighter is also capable of full interoperability with Turkey's other air, naval, and land platforms, as well as within a NATO framework. That being said, Turkey's F-16s are old. They've been in use with the Turkish Air Force since the late 80s. They've logged a lot more operational use than the NATO average, thanks to Turkey's close proximity to NATO's main adversary, Russia, as well as its unique geography next to some of the world's hottest conflict zones, where Turkey has routinely flown these aircraft to counter insurgent terrorist groups. Most of these F-16s are quickly approaching their maximum safe operating limits, despite having undergone vigorous modernization and parts replacement programs over the years. Secondly, after the US forced Turkey out of the F-35 program and failed to deliver the aircraft that Turkey had already paid for, there's the important matter of, well, money. Since the very inception of the Joint Strike Fighter program and Turkey's participation in its development, Turkey has transferred over $1.4 billion to the US, and currently, it has nothing to show for it. As noted earlier, this has caused quite a stir between the two NATO allies. US has to give Turkey something in exchange for the $1.4 billion that Turkey now doesn't have, and new F-16s might just be the solution. Except, since the price of 40 top-of-the-line F-16 Block 7 Vipers is actually a lot more than $1.4 billion, in fact close to $4 billion, It's again Turkey who will end up paying the US if this deal does go through. Turkey suffers from a long history of open and covert sanctions by the US Congress, latest of which is currently in effect as the much publicized Castle sanctions that targeted some top Turkish government officials but did stop short of banning Turkey altogether from acquiring advanced US weapons like the F-16. However, given the cold relations between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his American counterpart Joe Biden, it's not entirely certain that the deal will go through, even despite heavy lobbying pressure from Lockheed and the rest of the US defense industry. Having said that, there's also some pressure on the US Congress to allow the sale. It will surely help repair US-Turkish relations, if not fully, certainly to some level. It will bring the US billions of dollars in the process. It will also give the US some leverage over Turkey in the future, as it can dictate where and when these F-16s can't be used. For example, US might tell Turkey not to use American-made weapons when targeting certain armed groups in places like Iraq and Syria that Turkey considers terrorists, but the US considers partners and allies. Perhaps most importantly, Turkey's buying American weapons will mean Turkey is not buying any more Russian weapons, as it's almost certain that in exchange for approving the sale of 40 F-16s, the US side will demand Turkey canceling an order for a second batch of S-400s from Russia. Since Turkey's need for fighter jets will be met with additional F-16s, it will also keep Russian, European, and even Chinese rivals away from the lucrative Turkish market, at least for the time being. All in all, it will help keep a very resurgent Turkey in the US sphere of influence for a while, so there's a lot of incentive on the US side to take advantage of this opportunity. But it also has to stay cautious, as Turkey has a strong tendency to disregard US policy and look after its own interests in the region. Turkish side is likely also pushing for its own demands to choose the F-16 over other options. For example, it's likely going to ask the US to stop providing assistance to the YPG, and also stop supporting economic actions that lead to a highly volatile currency exchange rate between the Turkish lira and the US dollar. So then, does Turkey need new fighters? Yes. Does the US have something to gain by selling F-16s to Turkey? Absolutely. Does Turkey have other options? Of course. Would US interests get hurt by Turkey exercising other options? Definitely. Based on this, will Turkey end up with new F-16s from the US? Well, I think we can all draw our own conclusions, but my guess is that they likely won't reach a deal unless something else happens that pushes US and Turkey closer together. What do you think about Turkey's potential purchase of new F-16s from the US? Do you think that this will happen? Or do you think that Turkey's days of buying jet fighters from the US are long over? Let me know in the comments section. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you the next time.